Here it begins. Witch on the Holy Nights. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is One of One, but you can call me Seven. And welcome to Witch on the Holy Nights. I was craving another visual novel, and I thought instead of doing Steins Gate Zero, like I initially intended to do a little while ago, I would make a lateral movement into another category of visual novel that is critically acclaimed, that has a large and deep, a fan base with a lot of depth, shall we say, because this is set in the Type Moon universe. Now, you guys are gonna have to bear with me because I don't know anything about this visual novel. I don't know anything about the Type Moon universe or the Nasuverse, as I did some research online. I don't know anything about Fate at all. I've watched Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, but I don't know anything else about the stories that are set in this universe that share this setting. I don't know anything about the parallel universes or anything like that. But all I know is that this visual novel is supposedly goated. People really, really like it. And it's got some great story, some great plot, some great storytelling, I should say, and really nice character development. So if you guys know anything about Type Moon, about that universe, about like all of that stuff, and also about this visual novel, then come along. Let's do this together, because this is going to be my first foray into anything like that, and into this genre of visual novel, or I guess into this category of visual novel. So yeah, I'm really excited to get started, and I think that we should just get moving. It was a winter's day 8 years ago. That solemn morning when she understood the value of life for the very first time. Oh, here it comes. The music, baby. Oh, very pretty. Her home was nestled on the side of a mountain. Around it was nothing but inhospitable wilderness. She had no neighbors or childhood friends to speak of. Things like traveling to school or playing outside were more trouble than they ought to be. Indeed, with its pure water and bright stars, it was a place rich with memories both frustrating and halcyon. That was only during the summer, though. Winters in those mountains were extremely frigid, each morning more severe than the last. Her father would drive her to the train station, after waiting 10 minutes for the engine to warm up and the iced-over windows to clear. Oh! Voice acting! Mind starting up the car for me? Her father would savor his morning coffee, leaving her to venture outside and rev the engine. Out the front door she would go, traversing the garden with icy breath until she reached that old sedan. As always, she inserted the key, then started the ignition. The engine rumbled to life. Just as she proudly finished that humble task she'd done so many times before, this already does not bode well, a shrill scream pierced the air. She knew, even though it wasn't human, that the feeble sound was a cry of agony. A few moments passed. Her father came out and opened the hood of the car. Oh, is it a cat? Creaking fan belts, a monstrous-looking engine, and something that didn't belong. There was a cat, a mother, by the looks of it, and her 2 kittens. The 3 cats had been huddling for warmth in the engine's compartment. The mother cat was missing its head. One of the kittens had been mangled beyond recognition by the engine belts and surely died instantly. The other kitten, its face half covered in blood, panted faintly. It desperately clung to its mother, or rather, the chunk of meat that had been its mother, with the last bit of life it could muster. Poor things. Her father lamented their plight. The previous night had been especially cold, and after he had returned home yesterday, the cats must have snuck under the hood drawn by the warmth of the engine. They had slept next to the engine and awoken to a storm of spinning belts. Cars in the 80s were not sealed particularly well, so this was not unheard of. It's okay, name. It wasn't your fault. Her father's voice seemed distant. She could only make out a small tuft of the kitten's gray fur. The rest of it was caked in the blood of its mother and brother. I can see its skull. The fragile life of a speckled kitten. Trembling and possibly blind, it continued to nuzzle against its dead mother's chest.
待ちなさい
Wait, stop! She took the kitten into her arms and ran deep into the mountains to her grandfather's house. Was it because she was overcome with regret? Or was it the shock of grief years later? She still wasn't sure. Fighting back the welling tears, she burst into her grandfather's workshop. Her grandfather was a magician who could do anything. She had never seen magic. She knew that magic was a fantasy straight out of fairy tales, but so was her grandfather. She had to find him. He was the only one who could help.
その子猫の運命を
I suppose you want me to alter this kitten's fate, the cave-dwelling magician said indifferently. This kitten needs our help, she pleaded. Whether it was a simple task or a Herculean labor, her grandfather would not say. He simply granted the girl's childish wish. Like a machine. Oh my god, Steins Gate? Sorry. Oh. Oh no, the girl said. Before she knew it, however, she was holding a tiny corpse in her hands. Its fur was cold. The warmth of life had left its body, and the tears she had fought so hard to hold back poured from her eyes. Regret spread through her chest like an endless gray sky.
トロだったな結局
We were too late. Some things cannot be undone. Her mind struggled to come to grips with what had just occurred. The last 10 minutes were a total blank. Who she met, what she had known, it was all as if it had never happened. The only thing she was sure of was that life, once extinguished, can never return.
そこに誰か
It's me, I'm there, hello, hi, is somebody there? That day, it was her mistake that gave birth to me. Indeed, whatever occurred that day, it was a day of nostalgia and longing. This is the fairy tale of 8 years ago. The day they first met that no magic can ever bring back. Oh, wow. Oh, I loved that. I loved that transition. And now it's running like a film reel. Oh, sick. Oh, very cool. Ooh, very cool. Okay, we'll keep going before I offer my thoughts. Arrogant, greedy, and able only to destroy. I must be a wolf. I don't have regrets. There's no looking back. If my pride has left you behind, my sincere condolences. But at any rate, I suppose it's my fate to die at the hands of Little Red Riding Hood. I imagine this is chapter 1. Strange one. Ooh, what an interesting opening. Oh, look at how gorgeous this looks. Look at this art. And these transitions are so lovely. Okay, guys, what an opening. Ooh. I'll still give it some time before I share my thoughts about what's going on. But my mind is already racing. We continue. It was a quiet morning. From her bed, she could see the sky was an ashen watercolor gray. The thermometer displayed 43 degrees Fahrenheit, a rather unforgiving temperature for November. Her stomach woke her up with a growl, pathetically reminding her that she had completely missed breakfast. But lazy mornings like today's were, for her, a blessing. Show us our main character. It was already well past 8 in the morning, or on any ordinary weekday, tardiness would be unavoidable, but today, classes were canceled in commemoration of the school's anniversary. Gratefully, she had every intention of taking it easy for the first time in ages. Outside the window was a gloomy gray, and it reminded her more of evening than morning. It wasn't a pleasant morning by any stretch of the imagination, but having been up all night until just 3 hours ago, she couldn't care less about the weather outside. All she cared about was more sleep. As long as she could spend her morning in bed, what was happening outside was of no concern to her. She shut the curtains. Come on, show us who this is. Then closed her eyes and tried to let sleep
せめ
reclaim
て
her.
あと2時間ぐらいは凡庸な夢を見ていら
I'd
れ
like a
ます
nice
ように
uneventful dream for 2 hours, thank you. Blissful slumber found her soon enough. Her consciousness faded. However, her simple request would be mercilessly refused. A faint but shrill sound lingered in her ears. It was the unmistakable ring of a telephone. Much to her chagrin, her eyes popped open out of habit.
日に限って
Oh, come on. Why today of all days? The telephone was situated in the foyer on the first floor. Answering it meant walking down a 30-foot corridor and going down a flight of stairs. In her sleep-deprived state, that distance seemed somewhere between incredibly far and astronomically far. The phone's incessant ringing continued. She knew the caller would eventually give up if she ignored it, but she chose to fight the urge. Look at this place. What a house. I'm assuming a maid. Why doesn't Alice answer it? She thought her housemate. But she soon had to abandon all hope. The realization struck that her housemate did not have the day off from school and was likely in class at her prestigious little hilltop academy. Damn it. Oh my, look at this place. The caller proved incredibly persistent, and that persistence made the volume of the ringing seem even louder.
もうせっかくの安
Come
眠
on,
を
man. Let her sleep. It's her only day in ages. She was left with no choice but to get up, throw a top on, and leave the room. When are we going to see this mystery woman?
寒
Yeah, 43 degrees, huh? She rubbed her hands together to warm her numb fingers. The mansion's heating system was inadequate, to say the least, which meant that winter was the very worst of uninvited guests. Never more so than on a dreary morning as this, when one didn't need to use a thermometer to know how cold it was. The mansion sat in the mountains and was surrounded by dense forest. Winter always arrived here first, before moving on to nearby towns. Makes sense. The robotic ring of the telephone reverberated throughout the long hallway, and the mansion's furnishings had been so perfectly maintained that it made the place feel unlived. It seemed lonelier than it did splendid. Coupled with the dreary morning, it could have passed for a haunted house.
ま、幽霊屋敷そのものだけど
It is a haunted house, I
大体
suppose.
2人で住むには
It's too large for just the two of us. 2 folks? No staff, no parents. She counted more than 30 rings since it first began. The caller either had a lot of free time on their hands or had a good understanding of the house's circumstances. She had a strong hunch that it was the latter. The window above looked out onto a gloomy sky, and she hastened to catch the unrelenting ring in the act as soon as possible, though she had a feeling that her happy morning might come to a close the moment she caught it. It was here that a series of incidents began. Apologies for the lack of romance to this tale, for whether it be objectively true or merely supposition, it is always from gloomy and unassuming beginnings that extraordinary events are set into motion. I really like this writing so far. This narrator, they've got tone. Are we getting an opening? Like an actual opening? Oh, here she is. Okay. Oh, hell yeah. And there's the writer, right? The main writer, Kinoko Nasu. I believe that's correct. And Takashi Takeuchi. Oh, man, guys. Oh, we're so in. We're so back in another visual novel. It's been so long. I really enjoyed when I got to play Steins Gate. And this is going to be, I feel, a drastically different experience. From the writing to the visuals to the art style, all of it. This has its own. It's got such tone. I don't know how I would describe it yet, but I'm excited and interested. Intrigued is definitely the word. But I'm also unnerved. It felt like the narrator was presenting to us, and they said so in not so uncertain terms. But so far, I'm already very interested to see where this is supposed to go. This is modern. I imagine we're in Japan, maybe. But we've got modern, stuff, technology, blah, blah, blah. And this is our girl right here. I mean, I recognize her from the cover art anyway, I'm pretty sure. With red being her color. So she lives in this mansion on the mountain with just one other person whose name is Alice, I think. Her housemate, she called her. I do wonder what sort of story we're supposed to be getting into. Because unlike with Steins Gate, I had an idea that Steins Gate was going to make me cry. I knew that something about it was going to be emotional in some capacity. But with this game, I truly know nothing. Fate, and by extension, the Type Moon universe, and also Witch on the Holy Night, is a world completely unknown to me. I know nothing. So if you guys have any inkling, I mean, obviously don't spoil me, but feel free to leave it down in the comments, because I'm curious. I'm curious. I was also I read online that I should start with this visual novel if I'm going to get into the Type Moon universe, because it's like a standalone. Whereas Fate is so inexplicably huge, with so many parallel universes or worlds and stuff like that. Hello! Oh, look at this. Very pretty. Very pretty art. Oh, to live in an idyllic Japanese countryside town. I don't know, maybe this is bigger than that. She does live on a mountain. Come on, title sequence us. Everybody, welcome to Witch on the Holy Nights. Hell yeah, man. All right, let's get started. I'm ready to go. Take us to school. Take us there, narrator. Very nice music, by the way. Sunlight seemed to be playing peekaboo behind the clouds in the distance. It looked like it might be cleared up by early afternoon. Not that it has anything to do with me, though. The weather reflected her luck. On top of being forced out of the house at such an early hour, she had to suffer through a winter rain. I'm getting a bad... So who's talking now? Now whose POV is this? Getting a bad feeling about this? The sinking feeling she had only grew as she passed through the entrance and headed inside. I wish I could read any of that kanji. Literally, any of it. She didn't encounter any other students along the way, nor did she see anyone taking part in club activities either. The reception desk to the faculty room simply read, "Faculty closed." The school had given all of its students the day off, except those explicitly summoned. Like her. A fact that irked her more and more as the minutes passed. Walk, walk, shuffle, shuffle. She opened the door to the faculty room and headed toward the desk she had visited a number of times before. The man at the desk wore a plain shirt and suit that were nonetheless neatly pressed. Slim frame glasses adorned his face, giving off an amicable yet cunning air. The mild-mannered image this mid-20s man presented clashed with a cigarette he smoked. He didn't appear to have noticed her yet.
Yamashiro-sensei.
Yamashiro. She closed the door with a bang. Showing no response to the sudden sound, Mr. Yamashiro lifted his head. Hey, man.
Ohayo.
Ohayo.
要件は聞いているかな?
Aozaki is the name that we've gotten. Okay, this means you got the call.
1時間前に自宅で
An hour ago, out of the blue. Having graduated from this high school himself, Mr. Yamashiro was not much older than the rest of the students. For that reason, the students preferred him over the other teachers, a classic. He always had something interesting to talk about and kept conversations casual. In fact, he seemed more like an older student than a teacher, but she unfortunately didn't share her fellow students' fondness for him. She was of the opinion that teachers should come across as more austere, like an iron fist that could inspire both love and hate in equal measure. Not a buddy to joke and pal around with. He was the exact opposite of how she felt a teacher should be. It was only natural that her manner towards him would be forced and unfriendly. Not that she'd ever been wired to make friendly small talk. You're in a foul mood today. I am like this every day, man. Don't see the issue. The matter-of-fact answer perfectly matched the displeasure displayed on her face. This is so interesting because we have now gotten a character, we have moved into a scene, and yet we are not allowed to see her. We're not allowed to see her face, is what I'm saying, and I wonder if that's on purpose. I mean, most likely it was a choice. Her bad mood from having to get up early and the tiredness from staying up late must have collectively made her look positively adversarial. If you say so. Just go easy on our guest, okay? To be honest, we're not completely sure how to deal with him yet. Do you want to tell me what the hell is going on? Because I have no clue. As Mr. Yamashiro met her piercing eyes, he finally understood the reason behind her tone and slowly put out his cigarette. Let's start at the beginning. What did they tell you over the phone? That you'd be introduced to a transfer student. Okay, not very clear on whatever else they said. Impressed with the brevity of her answer. He could see that she was angry, not because she had been called to school on her day off, but because she hadn't been told why she was here. Mr. Yamashiro chuckled sympathetically. If this was all a joke to you, perhaps I should just go home.
いや
No. This
謝るよ
isn't a joke. We could really use your
本
help.
当に転入生の問題だ
Yes, it would seem that there really is a transfer student.
訳ありというか
But he has-
難しいというか
How should I put it? Difficult
彼
circumstances.
宗十郎君というんだけど
Sojuro.
ちょっと
Oh, that's hard to say.
いろいろとずれてい
Sojuro.
てね
Yes.
僕らが案内してあ
He's
げるより
peculiar.
同世代の
Someone
君の
around
方
the
が
same age would be
適任だ
best
と思ったんだ
suited to show him the ropes. Okay. She threw him an unamused look. It was negligent of them to be pushing teaching duties on her, but she did wonder how exactly this transfer student was peculiar. Maybe he meant the student had behavioral problems or was difficult somehow, but peculiar? She didn't have the slightest idea what that meant.
ずれてるなんて
It's still not her
そんな表現
face!
だけど
You don't hear a teacher call someone that every day. She had her doubts but swept them aside for now. This wasn't the time to get distracted by more concerns. The fact remained that this conversation was all the peculiar she could handle and she needed more information. She was already beginning to fantasize about saying no and curling up in her warm bed at home.
一つ
Okay,
何
pop the question. What do you
学年の
got?
君と同じ二
Second
年
year
生で
student like you, well behaved and a good listener. Not the most energetic individual, but that just means he'll be easier to get along with.
青崎君とはクラ
Not in
ス
the
は
same
違うけ
homeroom
ど
class as you, but I'm sure you'll get along just
そういったことは本人から直接聞き
I'll
に
be the judge of that when I actually
そうでは
meet
な
him.
くなぜ私
And none of that
の
answered my question. Why me? Though her tone was still stern, it was clear that she was willing to cooperate. She had decided to put her feelings of dissatisfaction aside and focus on the task of hand. Forcing herself to act empathetic in spite of her self-absorbed nature was something she was used to. Paradoxically, this force of will was also the reason teachers put so much faith in her. To a point. At times, that strength shattered expectation on those occasions. They were left with no choice but to treat it like a natural disaster and weather it until it passed. That was how Mr. Yamashita had come to deal with her as over the past year.
もう一度だけ聞きます
One more time.
それで
Why's it gotta be me? Pressured by a question without a clear yes or no answer.
別に
You're probably
青崎君
thinking
が
because
先
you're
生
the
方に
iron-fisted
提案されている
ruler of the
のと
student
同じ
council.
ぐらい
Ooh, student council
信頼されてい
president?
て
More information. We're being
学校のためなら
drip-fed
教
this
師も生徒も一緒
information.
に切って捨てる
A very
うちの
slow
生徒
setup.
会長だからじゃないと
Strike down both teacher and student for the good of the school, but you'd be
そ
wrong.
れ以外に
Can't imagine any other reason you'd call me. Strength far beyond that of an ordinary 17-year-old girl, coupled with the youthful beauty of one. Mr. Yamashita let slip a genuine smile, admiring the miraculous balance of qualities.
いや
I mean,
責務だけで
I
いい
knew
から
this
僕らやってる
myself.
さ
It was just about pure
この人生に
obligation.
関しちゃ教
But
師
who
や
gets this
生徒
job
会
has
長とい
nothing
った
to do with
役職
whether they're a
関係
teacher
な
or
い
on the student
なんていう
council.
かこんな頼みを損得抜きで聞いてくれるのは
I
君
understand.
だけだと思ってね
So you felt like
適任です
only
から
she
と強く
knew.
推
It
薦
would
したわ
only
け
be her who could do this. He knew she wouldn't say no.
山下
Mr.
怖っ
Yamashita
もう
sensei.
睨まない睨まない言ったろ
Come on, put on a smile
Oh.
from your new
納得してくれた
friend. You've kept him
雨の
waiting.
中ご苦労様
And I'll give you a ride home, sure. I'm good, thanks, she replied before turning and walking out of the faculty room. All right, where's our boy? Where's our new friend? Where's our faculty student homie? Show me. He had been waiting for about an hour, and while he did, the rain shower lightened into a drizzle. His mind wandered as he listened to the sound of the raindrops. That's what it is. This is really atmospheric. It's not like other visual novels that I've started with, where like you get the character and like the dialogue box and like the sprite. Not yet, anyway. It's all just been environments, which is cool. So we've got tables. He was the only one there. He's waited for a while. But the boy stuck to his spot like a scarecrow. He was chilled to the bone. It was the end of November, and the low temperature in the morning had marked the start of winter. The room was not much warmer. The heater hadn't been turned on. Either he'd missed the teacher telling him to turn it on, or he'd never seen one in his life. He breathed lightly on his freezing fingers as he aimlessly surveyed his surroundings. This dreary place was apparently a meeting room. The other students might have considered it a wonderful place to meet, but to him it was drab and overly spacious. It was a lifeless place that reminded him of an arid cave. Stuck in this cold room with absolutely nothing to do, his mind turned to what they wanted to discuss. Unable to come up with a solid answer, he returned his attention to the sound of the rain. The rain hardly resembled the rain in the mountains, though he could still recognize it, barely. Its smell and sound were harsher, but at the end of the day, rain was still rain. So even this world, alien as it was, could have something in common with the mountains. That trivial detail perked him up a little. So he's a country kid. Rural, even. He liked how the town looked, soaked in rain. Naturally, he preferred sunny weather, but he liked rain in its own way. The fog from the rain had soaked up the scent of the soil and reminded him of home, and it was at times like these that he was able to numb the anxiety the city gave him. But then he let out a discouraged sigh. How pathetic. He had already been here 2 weeks, and thoughts of his hometown still made him sad. Oops, sorry. Did not mean to do that. Perhaps feeling that he was being unfair to his new life, he composed himself and continued to wait patiently. Ah, another main character, I imagine. Is he wearing either? So he's got his jacket and his shirt and his tie. Are those bandages? It's not a scarf, right? Are those bandages around his neck? As if having a passion for distractions, his attention returned to the sound of the rain once more. Waiting like this didn't seem to be particularly hard for him. He quietly endured the numbing cold in the hour alone with calm, deep breaths. As the saying goes, good things come to those who wait. A strong point of his or not, he was astonishingly patient. It was certainly helping him out in this moment. Come on, bring them together. Let's see what their dynamic is like. Show me. Switching POVs? Man, what is this? She, on the other hand, was livid. The profile of the transfer student had been explained to her on her way to the meeting room. She was told he had lived his whole life up in the mountains without any electricity. That meant more than half of civilized society would have been an utter mystery to him. How is this even possible in post-war Japan? He's like Robinson Crusoe. She had every right to be angry. His village had apparently remained isolated in the mountains for many years. Contact with villages in the foothills of the mountains only occurred once a month or so, which was unfathomable in modern Japan. Although expressways and Japan Rail, the old national railways, now span the country like arteries, it wasn't entirely impossible for mountain villages like his to exist. But you couldn't imagine how someone born to such circumstances would think or live. When you say no electricity, you mean in general, right? Like he must have had access to a public phone. Apparently not. He mentioned how shocked he was by the phones when he started living here. I kid you not. He said, wow, telephones are so useful. Couldn't really deny that, could I? She shot a sidelong glare his way as he laughed. It seemed that the naivete of the country boy had cheered up Mr. Yamashiro a bit. They probably didn't have police officers either. My family home is up in the mountains, so it's not inconceivable they wouldn't have electricity. But he doesn't even know what school is? Nope. He'd heard of them, but this is apparently his first time visiting one. Maybe that's why he's nervous. He wasn't very talkative. He's almost, what would you call it? Feral? Like a boy raised by wolves. I suppose that makes this a safari. Yo, I like this guy. I like Mr. Yamashiro. I'm into him. Hey, you're scaring me, Aozaki. I was joking. Go easy, okay? Don't worry. I got the feeling from talking to him that he's a nice kid. He was almost like, I don't know, a cute little animal that doesn't speak human. Your jokes and metaphors aren't helping. As she gave her blunt reply, she tried to simulate in her mind what life without electricity would be like, but the thought of it took her sour mood from bad to worse. After all, it was a world she had never known. She could understand why the teachers had given up. She, too, wanted to give up and return to her warm bed, but her good-for-nothing pride was holding her hostage. Not only did the teachers believe she was up to the task, but she also believed that she could do it. It wasn't that easy to go back on her word, no matter how bad things looked after the fact. She walked along the hallway, the rain pattering in the background. The meeting room was already in sight. With a furrowed brow, she fixed her long hair in anticipation of meeting the unknown stranger within. Her elegant strides were like those of a confident general going into battle. Now, guys, you might be wondering why I've been reading everything so deliberately. And so it's just, I don't know. I'm so into it because they have done so much to set up this scene, to set up this meeting. I mean, I'm already so like they're immersing us into this situation, how she feels, the environment, what everything looks like, feels like, smells like. I mean, it's summer right now and it's just hot. And this is making me long for fall, for winter even, because I love those seasons. But I just feel like, I don't know, I gotta do this justice, right? Yeah, Aozaki-kun, I believed in you and all, but I'll say it again. Be nice, okay? Can you at least try to smile? I'm bad at faking smiles, but I'll do my best. Really? そうなんだ。よかった. That's a relief. I really mean it. It's good to know you're not good at everything. All right, come on, rip it. Show us. Oh, his shoulders slumped the second they reached the meeting room. As he put his hand to the door, his eyes seemed to say to her, be nice. Please? This only made her more irritated. I already know I'm not the friendliest looking person in the world, but I can't just make myself smile at the drop of a hat.
そういうインスタント
You should have asked
飛び回る
Tobimaru if that's what you were after. She sighed about her social shortcomings, but then it occurred to her that being called into school on a day off while sleep deprived wasn't anything to smile about anyway. She also thought the person responsible for this mess would be better off attending elementary school. It might not be his fault, but neither was it her duty or obligation to do the teacher's work for them. At the very least, they could have used their brains and organized all this on a normal school day. Another complaint she wanted to voice later. No, I understand though.
というか敵
Oh,
何であろうと敵
oh my god, hey! Come on,
上場酌量
Naozaki.
以前に敵
Let's not be like that, okay? I hate him already. He's my sworn enemy and I haven't even met him. Sorry, but I couldn't care less about his extenuating circumstances. What the hell? Come on, give homie a shot. I was gonna say, if he's had this level of isolation, doing this on a normal school day I think would kill him. It's probably good that they did it while the school is completely empty. He probably doesn't even, like, the environment itself is probably overwhelming and overstimulating for him. We can chill.
間が悪いのはお互
You
い
think this
様
isn't awkward for me too? Honestly, why did this have to happen when I'm so busy? Her pounding headache from a lack of sleep had boosted her aggression by 10%. No matter how harmless the guy on the other side of the door may be, anyone who disturbed her sleep was the enemy. And just as she was reaching peak annoyance, Mr. Yamashito opened the door to the meeting room. The room slowly slid into view. She didn't care for formalities, just looked straight ahead and stormed into the room, and found herself face to face with the most unusual opponent. Before we go on, let's see from another perspective. Turning back the clock just a little. Oh my god. You don't have to do anything. For some, these words are a priceless luxury. For others, they are unbearable torture. For the proactive girl, it was definitely the former, though she'd be too suspicious of the motives of anyone giving her such a gift to accept it. For the passive boy, it was definitely the latter. A bitter thorn that made him homesick, though at this very moment his mind was still distracted with the wait for his face to reveal any discontent. He maintained perfect posture as he stared at the gray sky. He had already waited a whole hour, but figured they must have had their reasons for making him wait. And as long as he had the sound of the rain to soothe him, he could keep on waiting.
でもそろそろ9時を過ぎるのか
That's his voice.
どうなんだろ
It must be 9 o'clock already. Yeah, that seems about right. He had been vaguely keeping track of the time as he listened to the rain. Due to the holiday, the school building was completely silent, except for the patter of the rain on the window. The mood felt as damp as the air. And it was then he heard the heavy clatter of footsteps
うよかっ
approaching.
た忘れられている
Finally,
かと思った
I thought they'd forgotten about me. He could hear 2 sets of footsteps, one heavier set belonging to an adult. He breathed a sigh of relief as the door slid
す
open.
まないね。随分とお待
So
たせしちゃっ
sorry
て
to keep you waiting. The first person he saw was a man wearing glasses and an awkward smile. That's Mr. Yamashito, the one who brought me here.
てあれ
Hey,
里中先生
where's Mr.
い
Satonaka?
ない
I
んです
told him to
か
keep you company. He shouldn't have left you here. Mr. Yamashito scratched his head, looking increasingly apologetic, and then from behind him, with a tight-lipped expression that made it clear she didn't want to be there, a dark-haired girl with a determined look in her eyes appeared. Come on. Show us anything. Give us something, you assholes. Come on, why? Why is this happening? It's like half her face. Oh, we got his. Whoa, the vibe shift, the mood, the music, it's like oddly romantic. I think that's just me. Sojiro gulped. The sound of the rain on the window faded into nothingness. That's when he knew. This was how it felt when time stood still. Is love at first sight for you, man? Oh golly, there she is! Hi, Ozaki. Hello. Oh, she doesn't know how to respond either? She blinked quickly a few times, as if taken aback. Why was anyone's guess? The boy was everything she expected a naive country boy to look like. However, she felt something she couldn't understand. Why do I feel like this music's gonna make me cry at some point? Now, those are bandages, for sure, right? His eyes widened slightly as if taken aback. The reason was obvious. Putting his feelings into words was a different matter altogether, so we will never know exactly what he experienced in that moment. Oh, I love this. That's when it hit him. He sensed he'd been touched by the hands of destiny. Allow me to introduce the two of you. This is the transfer student I mentioned, Sojiro Shizuki. And this is the girl that will be showing you around. She's our student council president and came in on her day off just to welcome you. I wanted to hear him say it. Her name is Aoko Aozaki. Okay. We have our two main characters, Sojiro Shizuki and Aoko Aozaki. I think I got those right. His voice and the sound of the rain seem distant. This is how they first met. Such was their start, for better or worse. Like the ephemeral beauty of fireworks. Why are they describing it like this? It's both intriguing and fascinating and worrying all at once. All of these things, not both, all of it. It was commonly believed among the students that Aoko was always in a foul mood. But this gossip was 90% prejudice, as Aoko simply didn't have time to be irritated 24/7. The reality was she simply didn't want to explain herself all the time and therefore seemed angry about something, obvious or not. This idle gossip did, however, lead to her earning the title of one of the school's 7 deadly threats. I love it, I love it, I love it. The remaining 10% of the gossip was right on the mark. Aoko herself often had the feeling that her tendency to feel animosity toward harmless things was akin to what a chronic headache sufferer might experience. Today fell under that 10%. For today, her anger was pure, and her childish and selfish display was befitting of her actual age. The meeting room was dimly lit, awash in the colors of the rain. To reduce electricity costs, school regulations forbid the use of lights during the day. This was the setting the three of them found themselves in. Her first impression was that his calm demeanor reminded her of a field of wildflowers. In spite of his perfect posture, his overall air felt placid, tame even. And though describing him as meek would be going too far, at the very least he was passive. Even through his uniform, she could see that he was thinner than average. His dark hair was unkempt, and he came across as a wholly forgettable boy. If she had to look at him in a more positive light, she would describe him more a young man than a boy. Oh, it was his calm demeanor that made him seem more mature. Was that the cause of Aoko's reasonless reaction? He seemed almost too at home in the meeting room, and she was left with the impression that it was her and the teacher, not this outsider, who were the guests here. She felt an unidentifiable aggravation building within her, almost as if her right to be here was in question. Aoko felt herself raising her natural defenses. What's with me? Am I really this angry for no reason? She hated not understanding things, her own emotions in particular. Ooh, I love it. That's so true for high schoolers, whether they know it or not. That's so true. I know I felt that way. It pained her less than you would imagine for a perfectionist like her, but it still nagged her like a thorn in her side. Aozaki-kun. Why don't you introduce yourself? Mr. Yamashiro's attempt to relieve the tension was equally irritating. Ooh, pout, we love a good pout. Introduce myself, huh? After casting an nasty glance in the teacher's direction, Aoko turned to face the boy. From an outsider's perspective, it might have looked like a stare down. Oh, it gave us just the look. And in that instant, the culmination of her emotional state hurtled toward the innocent boy and skewered him. Let her rip. Let him have it. Go on. Again, sorry for the wait, Shizuki. Hearing his name, Sojiro came to his senses. His stunned gaze shook loose. He took a deep breath to clear his head. Chalking it up to nerves, Mr. Yamashiro broke out a smile and turned to the girl standing beside him. I'll do the introductions then. There we go. We have this. Perfect. Having been introduced by Mr. Yamashita, the girl took a step forward. Her eyes were merciless. Her stare, an unspoken threat to violently trample her opponent. Sojiro, on the other hand, managed to keep his own composure despite the shock at how confrontational she appeared. He'd never been greeted quite like this before, but supposed, mistakenly, that this was how people treated each other in the city. The exchange must have looked quite dramatic to an onlooker. We are the onlooker, and it does look quite dramatic because that's how you're framing it to us. A girl ready to brawl, an earnest country boy desperate to understand. It was a murderous limbo, especially for anyone in the room with them. Like Mr. Yamashita, for example. While he had thought he had made the right decision in choosing an honor student to help him out, she was in an inexplicably bad mood, and the tension in the air was undeniable. It was this moment that he realized his failure. His realization had come far too late. One false move, and this girl, for whom no problem was too large, would become a storm. There we go. Become a storm that would rock the very foundations of the school. Just as the almighty Joker card could bring either fortune or disaster, the sole teacher who had been present at the time would come to bear the blame for the scandal that ensued. Wow! Wow, you two really seem to have hit it off. I suppose I can leave you to do it then? Mr. Yamashita laughed nervously as he crept toward the door. I'll be in the faculty room. Stop by when you're finished. You'll be alright, won't you, Awazaki? You're the student council president. Don't let me down. Oh my god, I love it. I love this vibe. This is great. Mr. Yamashita left, leaving the two in a locked-eyed state, one in which one set of eyes was doing all the glaring. All that remained in the room was an artless boy and a cross-armed guarded girl. Oh my god. The two lingered in silence. They resembled shogi players, agonizing over their first moves. Though it was only Aoko who was reading so much into the situation, she decided to put her irritation aside for the time being. With no reason to feel revulsion for him in the first place, she sighed deeply and faced Sojiro. Whatever. It's not like this is the first time that Mr. Yamashita landed me in it. So, what's your name again? Anata namae wa? Her tone was nothing if not reproachful, though he had done nothing to offend her, but the boy failed to pick up on it. Incapable of such venom himself. Ozaki-san. There you go. Yes. For whatever reason, he came across as happy in his response. Look at her face. Drop the miss. That's not my style. Shizuki-kun, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? That's what I was gonna say. What do you mean? What do you mean? What does she mean? Oh my god. Hello? Did I say something weird? Yeah, very. The boy replied immediately as if it was a natural response, but quickly second-guessed himself. Never mind. That must be normal here. You can call me Shizuki-kun. And the latter is fine? Whatever, man. Yoroshiku, go for it. She followed her blunt reply with a swift turn away from him. While she was hardly thrilled at the prospect of the task at hand, it had been entrusted to her, and it was her personal policy to see it through to the end. I'm not in the mood for pleasantries. Time is short, so let's get this over with. Sure, I know your time is valuable. Aoko's blunt rancor was lost on him once again. Humans tend to be overly conscious about being ignored, whatever form that takes, but despite being peeved at landing none of her attacks, Aoko did her best to act professional and directed her guest into the hallway. Oh man, there was no sunlight in the hallway nor any sign of life. More like a prison than the cave that was the meeting room. As it dawned on Aoko that the hallway matched her mood, she sighed once again. First things first, did you understand everything Mr. Yamashita explained to you? Yes, I get how the school works. But it's still a bit hard to imagine that everyone here is around the same age. I see, great. She rubbed her forehead. This Sojiro kid had no idea what he was in for. Apparently all he'd heard about school was that it was a place where a lot of people met to study. Oh god, high school teachers imparted to students their knowledge in various fields of study while fostering discipline and creativity, but never did Aoko imagine that she would have to explain the concept of school itself to someone. That's something that we couldn't ever imagine because we live in, like, all of us who live in urban areas. I can't imagine not knowing how school works, obviously. So, like, this is wild. This is a wild premise to start with. And a hilarious meeting, by the way, which they placed so much importance on. Destiny and fate and all that. Yes, fundamentals were important, but this was absurd. She had serious doubts whether he could even handle classes. But Mr. Yamashita insisted that things would work out somehow. Sojiro had managed to pass the transfer exam after all. Barely. Not my problem, and she grumbled as she walked down the hallway. She consoled herself with the fact that today would be the only day she'd spend with this boy out of time, or at least she'd try to keep it that way. She'd try to keep it that way. Aozaki, he asked, calmly trying to get her attention. Can I ask you something? What's up? I could possibly be wrong about this, but you seem upset about something. You're not a morning person, are you? His gaze revealed earnest concern, as if asking her if she'd remembered to eat breakfast. Oh my god, I love him! Oh my god, look at her face! It was like another hammer to her head. Oh my god, I love them! I love them! I love their dynamic! It was true that Aoko had been glaring at Sojiro the entire time. Glaring red-hot daggers, in fact. Not just at him, but the universe. Even on her best days. Her roommate used to remark, most people can't handle your scowl, Aoko. It wouldn't hurt you to be a little more tolerant. She'd been warned that her emotions were so naked on her face that people treated her like a powder keg. How naive could the boy be that he could not pick up on this? He's not making fun of me, is he? No, he couldn't be. He doesn't know what that is. He's just a dummy. Huh? Even she found her own attempt to reassure herself unconvincing. It began to dawn on Aoko, far too late, that compared to her, this laid-back transfer student might as well have come from another planet. Look, let me spell it out for you because you're just not getting it. It's not your imagination. I am angry, and anyone can see that in my eyes. It's easier than trying to make conversation. In response to her words, the Martian clapped his hands together. That makes sense. I don't know why you'd want to do it that way, but I get that it's a faster way to express yourself. Oh, he accepted her reasoning without argument, though he still had no idea what kinds of emotions she was trying to express. Oops. Oh, this is how you do the log. Oh my god, I didn't even know. I accidentally hit my scroll wheel. It was as if he could hear the words but didn't grasp the meaning. Ideas that should have connected were instead separated into blocks. So it's true. He really is peculiar. Mr. Yamashiro's words made sense to her now. What was odd about this boy went way beyond naivete. A stranger in a strange land he may be, but it was only civilized to forgive him some jet lag-induced confusion. All right, classroom time. She has her composure. He's like, hold on a second. Chodo a minute. Aoko waited for Sojiro to continue. The boy was patient to a fault. She rubbed her forehead with her hand again, nursing a vague feeling of uneasiness. I wanted to ask, why are you so angry? Is it your line of business, or does it run in your family? Why is she looking at the camera? Why is she Jim Halperting us from The Office? The music stopped. A long silence, though she knew it wouldn't change the situation. She remembered her regret at answering the phone that morning. He meant no harm. She repeated this thought like a mantra in an attempt to keep her impulses in check. It's not you if that's what you're worried about. I'm just trying not to think how much better my day would have gone if I'd slept in until noon. With that vague answer, she started to walk again, and turned her gaze away from this rude stranger named Sojiro Shizuki. And I think, guys, that is where we're going to leave the first episode. I think it's a nice little introduction to what we have in store here. Apparently, this is an action visual novel. Again, if you guys know anything about this, or if you're fans of the series, or even anything about the Type Moon universe, please get in the comments. I want to know. Just don't tell me too much. Obviously, don't spoil me. Don't be an asshole. But this is sick. I'm already really enjoying this because the atmosphere, the immersion, the writing, the art, the way that they frame everything, both in the words and in the actual visuals, it's so sick. I'm already really enjoying it. I can see why this adaptation, or this localization, I should say, was highly anticipated. So anyway, I hope you guys will join me for the rest of the visual novel. I'm very excited to keep going. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I definitely did. And I will see you guys in the next video. So for now, have a good rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye.